English voice actor of Ken Kakamura supports blackwashing art and then reverts back immediately. Oh yeah, I was gonna watch a video about this. Here's what my opinion is for it. This is actually my viewpoint with all of these issues and all of this, like, changing the races for the characters. I think that when you're making fan art of something, if you want to swap the race of the person, I think that's totally fine. If you want to make a black person white, that's fine. If you want to make a white person black, that's fine. If you want to make a curvy chick, make her fat or ugly or, like, weird looking, that's fine. If you want to make a skinny girl or, you know, some girl that's fat, make her skinny and more attractive maybe, then go ahead and do it. It's fine. It's art, and you should be able to be creative in whatever way you want with fan art, because you're a fan of the show, and if you want to express that in a unique way, that's totally okay. The problem is that people treat it in a one-directional way, where it's like if you make a, you know, like a white character black, people are like, wow, this is great, and if somebody makes a black character white, or sorry, oh yeah, a black character white, then they're also getting harassed. The issue is that there's a double standard. There should not be a double standard at all. If you want to draw a canonical character in a different race, a different gender, like, people gender bend characters all the time, and I think that's great. If you don't think that's true, I have one word for you. Bowsette. It's obviously true. It's obviously a good thing. And I think also the issue is that a lot of people who are in Japan, they view it as cultural erasure, because they think that the people that are doing it are trying to erase their race and erase the Japanese influence of anime and Americanize it. And I think that's what's made a lot of people who are in Japan, like actual Japanese people, react so negatively. Which they are. Yeah, I think that they are in some cases, but I think that's okay if you're a fan of the show and you want to change it to something that you want. Like, my viewpoint is very simple. You can make fan art however you want to make fan art. It's the same with the Anya stuff with mouthwashing. If you want to make this character, you know, very, you know, timid and you know, like, you know, demure, right? And just kind of like, just like the way that she is in the game, basically, that's fine. Or if you want to make her have massive tits and a huge ass, that's also totally fine. Either one is fine, because it's fan art and it's not real in their cartoons. How's this even a conversation? The cartoons!
So a few days ago, we were talking about this art of Okrun and Momo, which has now collected over 90,000 likes.
Wow.
However, many people in Japan are not happy.
Well, you can see that this wasn't a good time for whoever made this.
And Momo, which has now collected over
because you can see, you know what happens whenever this is gray? Oh, I know what happens. That means that you had some people that didn't agree with what you said.
1,000 likes. However, many people in Japan are not happy with this art. For example, this tweet with over 70,000 likes. Once again, it reads, "There are still many racists who say that changing the race of a Japanese character is not discrimination. And as such, you can see from the quotes, they say it's a great drawing because the character is not Japanese. If you point this out..."
See, that's totally different. And I think also the reason why this happens is because of how people react when a black character is drawn as white. And, like, how negative and, like, psychotic people can be about that. And, like, very aggressive and hostile. I think that if that didn't happen, people wouldn't have this perspective.
Will be called a racist. Their IQ is too low to even understand what discrimination is. There was also this response getting over 370,000 likes, reading simply, "Yo, I'm Japanese. Stop making Asian characters black. We're not Disney characters." In the responses to that post, I saw some people very confused by the Disney comment. So for anyone confused, they're likely referring to how Disney has race-swapped characters. Anyways,
it's obvious. Like, yeah, if you don't know what they mean by that, you're being intentionally dishonest.
Then this tweet that I also showed in the prior video, where this Japanese user says, "I'll put it back and post Okrun and Momo." I believe when I showed that tweet in my prior video, it had a few hundred likes. Well, since then, it's gotten over 210,000 likes.
Wow, holy shit. Yeah, I think a lot of Japanese people are probably tired of it. It makes sense.
Plus this response to it with 69,000 likes reading, "When Akawa Bukubu Sensei drew Ida from Splatoon 2, he had a slightly lighter skin tone, so everyone made a big fuss about it being racist, but then they're happily making Japanese characters black and justifying it. Their double standards are ridiculous. Which one is discriminatory? So
This is exactly right. And the same thing happened with Natlan with Genshin Impact, where everybody was celebrating the, darkening the skin of the characters. And they were like, well, this is the way the characters should be. They should be like this. Well, who decided that? You're not the one making the show. You're not doing that. I think that's probably, after seeing the way that people reacted to Genshin Impact, this is probably what also caused people to be more against this mindset. You can draw them however you like, but you can't at the same time. The problem is the double standard. It's not the fan art itself. As I said, my viewpoint is that you can draw fan art of any character, whoever you want. I don't care. It's a drawing. It's a cartoon. What a stupid thing to think about. Who cares?
So they're citing that Splatoon situation that I've talked about a few times on this channel, where the creator of Pop Team Epic had made this Marina art and then received a tremendous amount of insults from people on Twitter, including this tweet, which was like basically sending him a death threat. As I say every time, of course, they would argue that it's just...
This is the problem, is that I think Twitter has really had... I think they really need to start permabanning the people that are making these posts. I think they do. And... like, it's okay to like have like disagreements and stuff like that on like Twitter, but saying that people need to be killed or that you want to kill people, I think this should be a perma. It should. Yeah, it's weird. I know. Why? Because I think that it's a call for violence, and I think that people do take their actions that they, like things that happen on the internet, and it does radicalize them, and they are violent. Like, I don't even think this has any correlation to the United Healthcare CEO thing at all. I think it's a totally different situation, but there have been other instances of this happening. It's like, why let people say this? It's so easy to just not do that.
A joke or something, but that never detracts from how pathetic it is. The artist had even...
Now you're for censorship? I've always been for censorship of death threats and calls for violence. When was I not for censorship on calls for violence and death threats? When? I don't believe you have been. Okay. It's annoying.
This response saying, regarding the content of this fan art, I received a response that this was racism against black people because the character's skin is depicted as lighter than in the original work. I also believe that if Ito were human, he would be black. Sorry, my coloring skills are poor, so it's not accurate. Of course, this is a very talented and successful artist, and his coloring skills are certainly not poor. Regardless, he felt the need to make that tweet and apologize to the mob. And for many years, Japanese artists would get harassed on Twitter, and many of them would apologize or delete the artwork, etc., etc. But it seems like also over the years...
This is the problem, too, is that they harass the artists and they attack them for the for making fan art that people on Twitter deem to be wrong in some way or another. That's also the big reason why you're seeing a huge negative reaction to it.
More and more Japanese people have been sick of this sort of treatment and also sick of the double standards. So it seems like lately we're seeing more and more of them push back. Now returning to the Okarun and Momo art situation, things ended up getting crazier because the English voice actor for Okarun decided to get involved, changing his profile pic on Twitter to that art of Okarun and saying this is fire and thanking the artist. And indeed in his bio we can see it says he, him, voice actor, Dan Okarun. In another tweet we can get further context, as here we see the voice actress Anaris Q changing her profile pic to that art of Momo and going on to say, new profile pic, had the couple profile pic with AJ Beckles VO, and going on to...
Well, I hope they have fun. I do. Because in a few years, they'll be replaced by AI, and then that's going to be it. Because, like, if you're a Japanese studio, do you want to have... There's a big issue that we have here in, like, the Western world. I don't know what it's like in Japan, because I don't live there, I don't understand their culture, I don't speak Japanese. But it certainly seems like over in Japan and in China, it seems like there's a lot of resentment for American people taking Japanese and Chinese culture and appropriating it for virtue signal points. just on a fundamental level, we're just tired of it. They're just annoyed by it, right? It's obnoxious. And so, and it's very easy. It's justified, right? Very justified. I think this is why you're going to see a lot of things turn into being AI. It's because if you're one of these studios, why do you want to deal with somebody who is going to constantly put you in these weird PR issues? Like, it puts you in like this really uncomfortable and bad spot PR-wise, just so this person can virtue signal about being a good person. That's the issue. And it's cheaper. Yeah, good point too. That's another really big component. It shoves them into a culture war? Yeah, exactly. Like, you're volunteering the show to be part of a culture war that the studio doesn't want to have anything to do with.
To credit the artist, AJ's response saying had to complete the pair with my girl, and his tweet getting 39,000 likes. However, you may have noticed that in some pair with my girl,
it got 39,000 likes, but
39,000.
Anytime you see this, who can reply? You know that the tweet was made by a pussy ass bitch. That's it. That's the reason.
Likes. However, you may have noticed that in some of those screenshots, AJ's profile pic is no longer that art of Oak Rune, as it seems like within 24 hours or less, he actually changed it to a different profile pic. A tweet explaining that, saying, "My profile pic is now a fan drawing based off me doing a silly Oak Rune pose. An Afro-Latino man, which I think is pretty cool. I hope you guys like it." Although that tweet was later changed to instead say, "My profile pic is now a fan drawing based off me, an Afro-Latino man. I hope you guys like it."
Well, this is the issue, is that people keep trying to put their own identity into shows. They keep trying to make the show reflect their own identity rather than try to identify with the show. They try to make the show identify with them. And it's extremely selfish and it's annoying for everybody else.
Like it. As of recording, and Neris's profile pic is still Momo, and we can get more context on roles that she's played in her bio that reads voice of Mirko, My Hero Academia, Lynette Genshin, Fei Xiao Honkai Star Rail, Nessa Pokemon, Kimberly Street Fighter 6, JJK Dora, and she/they. In her pinned tweet, also providing context to her role in Dandadan, saying that she's the English voice of Muko. As for AJ Beckles, you'll have to come to your own conclusion as to why you think he changed.
I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm a boomer, and anytime that I see a anime that like the setting is a high school or a middle school, I'm much more of a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Berserk, Vinland Saga kind of guy. Ghost in the Shell. I've always thought anime was a great tool to tell a fantastical story. So incredible it can't even be existing in the real world. So maybe I'll watch Dandadan, but it's really not my type of thing. Castlevania.
Profile pic so swiftly. Maybe he decided that he was not helping the situation, thinking he was fanning the flames or something like that, and therefore decided to change his profile pic and not get further involved. However, there were also some other things that happened.
The 3-episode
Once
rule?
again, come to your own conclusion.
I will.
But
I'll
here's
try
the
it
rest
out.
of the information.
People really like it.
In the responses to his tweet about changing his profile picture, we can see a number of tweets like these. This one, for example, saying, "As a black guy myself, I stand with Japan when I say some of y'all need to be stopped." And posting a few images of prior tweets that AJ had made. These reading, "Every time there is a black actor cast in a role in fantasy where the source material version is lighter skin, someone always has something to say about it. So tiring. It doesn't affect."
They do that with black characters being cast as well. The issue is that, again, everybody can see that when race swaps happen, 95% of the time, they're in one direction. And with gender swaps happening 95% of the time, they're in one direction. Humans are genetically programmed over millions of years of evolution and natural selection to identify patterns. I'm sorry, but like, that's just how it is.
The character whatsoever. It's okay. And the other one reading, "The reason white people in most cases shouldn't be playing POC isn't a matter of color. It's culture. Speaking for black people, we know what a barbershop sounds like on Sundays, what a hot comb smells like when it's going through our hair, It's not the color, it's the culture. And so
Yeah, that's straight from a quote from Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington was right about that. I think he was. But the difference is that you're talking about race swapping a character that is in a setting of Japan. I think that it's true that you can't race swap a character that's African American to a white person and then not have something be lost in the cultural transition there. He's totally right. Denzel Washington was 100% right with that. Of course he is. It's common sense. But you're looking at these characters are not, their culture is not African American. It's not about their gender or their, not their, sorry, it is about their gender, but it's not about their race at all. That's not the component here. Like he's fighting, like I think this is true in some cases, but this just simply is not one of those cases. Fudge man, you're more than your skin. I think that there's a unique experience that people that are part of a minority group in a country, like for example, African American people do have. Now, it's not universal, but there is a trend and there's a degree of relatability and shared experience there. And I think that to say that a racial experience doesn't exist is delusional. And I think it goes just as far as saying that every experience that you have is categorized by your race. I view both extremes to be extremes, and I think that there's a very obvious experience that a person goes through as a minority in a group in an area that a person who is a majority there might not necessarily be able to relate to. Isn't that Denzel Washington? Yes, it is. So, like, there's a degree of this, but the problem is that every conversation about it is done for the purpose of optics, and it's done for the purpose of looking good rather than being good. I think that there's a very, very good conversation to be had about how to approach this in a healthy way. But the problem is that almost everybody who tries to approach this topic is doing so for some form of goal, rather than having like a genuine conversation and trying to like see what the other person is saying. But yeah, I think in this circumstance, it's totally different. This is totally ridiculous to say it in this circumstance.
And so, as mentioned, many people in the responses and even elsewhere on the internet began sharing those various tweets of AJ's. However, the situation also proliferated back over in Japan too, as we would then have this tweet from Shin responding to that prior tweet that AJ made where he talked about changing his profile pic to that altered version of Okarun. Shin going on to say this and getting over 17,000 likes. Please spread the word. This is a declaration by the overseas voice actors that they support, quote, the racism that disrespects the original work by turning characters black and excluding Japanese people, unquote. Change the icon image of the X account to, quote, a Japanese exclusion blackening hate image, unquote.
Bro, they take no prisoners, don't they? Oh, God. Wow.
It expressed blasphemy against the original work and discrimination against Japanese people.
Yeah.
This is an international issue. Officially, please remove this voice actor from his role immediately.
And here's another thing that people might not realize. Y'all single-handedly managed to red pill Japan just by being obnoxious, Lamau. The other issue is that these Japanese companies, you know who they listen to? People in Japan. It's the same thing that happened with Genshin. It's like everybody in America can be fucking out of their minds about how Genshin is, but nobody gives a shit. But if there's like 3 or 4 threads on Bilibili about how something's wrong in Genshin, oh, okay, all right. So let's go ahead. We're going to look into this. We're going to give you guys some free polls. We're going to change it immediately. We're so sorry. Please don't quit playing the game. It's a red alert, right? And so I bet it's the same thing over there too. I forgot what studio this also happened with. I forgot, but this is not the first time it's been like this.
The responses to Shin's tweet, including, y'all single-handedly managed to red pill Japan just by being obnoxious. Conversely, however, this tweet seems to be upset by Shin's tweet, saying, the Japanese nerds are starting to get on my nerves. And this response from Zero Dozer talking
I'm sure. The issue is that, and I think that this is what makes people like this so unlikable. It's that if you were to categorize another group of people that they view as disenfranchised, and then have a negative pejorative following that, or like negatively stereotype them as a group, these people would be losing their minds and furious at you. But because they think that they can do it to this group because they've decided that it's okay, based off of their own arbitrary criteria, now they're able to do the exact thing that they hate.
About localization issues as well, saying now the Japanese know what the localization industry thinks of them. My suggestion, make a move to get these losers out of their jobs.
I think that they should. I think that anime is a core part of how Japan exports its culture to the world. And I think that they should do their best to maintain the cultural significance of that and to make sure that it's something that's truly coming from Japan. So it's not co-opted by international interests. And I also want to say this. There's a reason why a lot of us watch anime. And it's because we like the way that they tell stories more. So we don't want you to change it. Even us here in America that have been watching, I've been watching anime. I mean, fuck, I remember, dude, school would let out at 2:40, Dragon Ball Z came at 3, and me and my friend walked home, and we never missed the intro. Every single fucking time. So I've been watching it then. Adult Swim came out. I was like, as soon as I saw Full Metal Alchemist and Ghost in the Shell, I was like, what have I been doing with my fucking life? And so, yes, I love anime. I've always watched anime. It's great. And so I don't want to see it Americanized either. Like, if I did, I'd just be watching some American show. What the fuck, man? So it's literally better for everybody who's an actual fan, and the only people that are pushing for this are people that don't actually like anime. They just want to use anime as a vehicle to advance their worldview.
Both in the West and East are sick of these racist psychopaths. Over on our Kotaku in action, a top post would get made saying, Ken Takakura, Dandadan, English VA supports blackwashing art, also thinks white VAs can't voice POC, but not vice versa. English voice actor again exposing racism and hypocrisy, again showing we need to clean house the voice acting industry. And going on to post...
The real problem is that this tweet, there's a lot of truth to this, but we can't talk about it because everybody's so fucking dishonest. It's so annoying.
Tweets that we took a look at earlier, just
Context
for a refresher,
matters. Yeah,
the ones
it
where
does.
AJ had said, every time there's a black actor cast in a role in fantasy
can't we
where
be
the
normal?
source material
Yeah.
version is lighter skinned, someone always has something to say about it. So tiring. It doesn't affect the character whatsoever. It's okay. And
it does. It does, because people identify with a character, and a character's race is a barrier of identification. So I don't know. I mean, how many sociological studies do we need to have that say that people between the same race, this is like a commonality? It's obvious. Like, it's so obvious. Like, I understand it, like, we have to pretend like this isn't real, but it is obviously fucking real. Of course. And I think also, by the way, there are so many examples of, like, characters that are, like, played by, like, black actors, or people that are black characters that have people that like them that are of all different races. I mean, the best example, Goku.
the reason white people, in most cases, shouldn't be playing POC isn't a matter of color. It's culture. Speaking for black people.
Also, that's another really great example. Darth Vader. That's one people that never talk about. Yeah, Darth fucking Vader.
We know what a barbershop sounds like on Sundays, what a hot comb smells like when it's going through our hair. It's not the color, it's the
Kratos,
culture.
yeah.
Getting top
Exactly.
responses such as, imagine a white person saying all this. They'd lose their job, receive death threats to them and their family, and would probably be blacklisted from the industry for good.
That's the reason why a lot of people hate this, is they don't even hate the fact that it's happening. They hate the fact that there's a double standard, and they're being told to act like it's not there, because it's a personal insult to their intelligence that they can't see what's directly in front of them. That's why people take hypocrisy so personally on the internet, is because it's a personal insult to your intelligence as an individual.
Satirically, someone says, "Excuse me, sir. I noticed you inadvertently use offensive terminology blacklisted in your post.
Yeah.
We don't use white/black to refer to good or bad anymore. It's 2024, chud." And another saying, "What a frickin' racist thing to say. Quote, all black people have the same culture and experience, unquote." And the implied BS of, "Ha, whites have no culture." And speaking for black people, who the heck made you king of the blacks? And this one saying, he changed his profile pic to a fan art of himself. I guess his agency told him to shut up. And that cycles me back.
Yeah, they probably did. Because like if you're a production studio, do you want to hire a voice actor who's going to volunteer you to be on one side of a culture war? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Absolutely not. No. As a black person, I cannot stand this dude. I think that there's a lot of, listen, I think one of the worst thing that these people did is that, like, in 2004, everybody was playing Halo, everybody was saying slurs, and everybody got along in the lobbies. And somehow, over the 20 years, we've just slowly gotten rid of that. And now we're back to identifying as these different groups, being hyper aware of this. It's so obnoxious and weird. It was better back then? I think it was. I think it was a lot better back then. We devolved? We have devolved. And do you want to know why we've devolved? We've devolved because we've allowed people that have no social skills, no friends, and they're disagreeable, annoying people. We've allowed them to be the ones who make the decisions, and they call the shots for what is acceptable to interact with people with. That's the reason why it's happened. Think of like the 5 biggest losers in your high school, put them on a council, have them decide what you can do in class and what you can do at like a school function, and then think about how unfun, boring, and annoying that is, and then realize that that's what life is like in 2024. We are catering to the lowest common denominator of disagreeable, annoying people in high school that had no friends. And they went into HR and they're trying to make rules for everyone. They're fucking annoying.
That's
That's
what
what
I
I
said
think.
earlier in the video about coming to your own conclusion here. Why do you think he changed his profile pic back and so fast? Do you think it was out of like some good character development? Like maybe he was like, you know what, this is not good. Like I'm making a mess out of the situation, so he changed it back.
Like there was a time in my high school where there was this one black kid and he would come in and play Smash with us and nobody liked him. Do you want to know why we didn't like him? It wasn't because he was black. It's because he kept telling everybody that he was better than everyone and that he had unlocked Sonic in Super Smash Bros. Melee, but he won't show us how to do it, and he would never play against anyone, and he would come and sit there during lunch while we would be playing and tell us that we're all bad. That's why we didn't fucking like him. It had nothing to do with this, right? I don't care about that. So fucking annoying. Yes. Yes, exactly. It's making me mad again. I'm thinking about it. Were you bad? I was better than him. I'll tell you that.
Or maybe it really is like his agency telling him to shut up, although that does seem kind of unlikely. A lot of these English voice acting companies seem like they would support the tweets that AJ made, if anything. Maybe it was the whole thing causing people to...
I don't think that they support the tweets. I think they're afraid not to support the tweets. And I think that's changing over time.
look into the history of what he's posted and not wanting all that attention.
She had a white friend that did the same shit. Yeah, it was me.
Maybe it was the tweet going on in Japan where people are calling for him to lose his job. Or some combination of all that, who knows. Leave your thoughts in the comments. As always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this coverage, and if you did, consider liking and or subscribing. Appreciate ya, and I'll see you in the next one.
I think that it would be really great if we could talk about this stuff the way that we used to talk about it. Because, like, what was really good about the old lobbies back in, like, the Xbox Live days and the Ventrilo days is that you could sit down with somebody who was from, like, I don't know, fucking Saudi Arabia or Dubai and just ask them, like, why don't you let women drive? So, like, if you draw the profit, what happens over there? And they can ask you, like, so how many times do you guys have school shootings? So, like, can people bring guns to school? So, like, how many do people actually, like, are they, like, really having sex with their cousins and stuff? Or is that just on Jerry Springer? And they can you can ask these questions with no fucking filter. And it was amazing. It was so great because people got a chance to understand the other person in an honest way. You could find answers. Yes, exactly. It was so good. And now we have these people, these tone policers, these losers that are trying to unwrite years of progress. Years. And I'm so disappointed. It's sad. Bring it back? The best way that you can bring it back is by just acting that way like you used to act. And if people don't like it, then fuck them. Because what are they going to do? They're going to cry about it? Who cares? Who gives a fuck? It's so perplexing. It really is, man. I think so. Yeah, just act the same way. If people cry about it, give the video a like. It's so funny for me to see this happen. It is. I think the Japanese people are seeing this, and they see how one-directional this, erasure, basically what it is, and I think it's offensive to them.